We're on lap number 4. Out in front of the field, it's Ty Dillon. Tim George Jr. runs second. Kyle Fowler, Tom Hessert, Brandon McReynolds, your top 5. 6th is Joey Coulter, Brian Silas, Bobby Gerhart, Matt Merrill, and Hal Martin are your top 10.
A lot of patience being shown right now, but by all these drivers.
And that's really the key. I think when you come to Talladega, you've got to show patience, even when you decide it's time to go out and try to make a pass. You have to be patient and make sure someone's going to go with you, or you get hung out.
You have to have some help. There's no question about it. That's the problem at Daytona. Nobody was willing to jump out of line. Joey Licata was running 3rd late in the race, jumped out of line. Nobody went with him. He fell back to 6th, but I applaud him for trying it. He was trying to make something happen.
Right now, RCR very strong out in front of this field. Tim George Jr. running in the 2nd spot, right behind Ty Dillon. Ty Dillon, grandson to Richard Childress. His brother Austin Dillon running consistently in the Camping World Truck Series. There's Kyle Fowler running in the 3rd spot, one of Venturini Motorsports' entries, and they're always good at this racetrack. As a matter of fact, Bill Venturini went over 200 miles per hour in qualifying back when he was racing here in the ARCA Series.
I think he holds the all-time record at this race at 205 miles an hour back in the 80s.
Tom Hessert in that Ken Schrader entry, the number 52, currently running in the top 5. He's got a 4th place position holding on to now, and Brandon McReynolds in the 5th spot. Talked about his father, Larry McReynolds, one of our broadcast partners, former crew chief, Daytona 500 winning crew chief.
Brandon came here last year, had a great car, had some overheating issues, spent a little bit of time on pit road, but was able to run right with the leaders the entire race. That's a great opportunity for him in the Turner Motorsports Wolfpack Reynolds Chevrolet. Again, that's the same car that Ricky Carmichael ran 4th with at Daytona this year. Mark Rett, who won this race 2 years ago with Justin Lofton, is the crew chief, and there's Mark right there. That's Larry McReynolds right there. That's
Larry Mack watching his young man go around this racetrack. Stay with us, more here on Speed, your motorsports authority. Coverage of the ARCA Racing Series on Speed is brought to you by Burger King, home of the Whopper, and by Menard. Save big money at Menards. Already the pack has caught one of the slower cars and had to make its way by a lapped car already. Tim Mitchell going a lap down. And so the pack moved off of the yellow line, but they all moved off. It was synchronization.
Well, Ty Dillon told us that he was going to get to that yellow line, stay there, try to lead a bunch of laps, and he certainly has done that.
See the field lined up down at the bottom of the racetrack, right on that double yellow line.
Scott Lagasse finally able to get down to the bottom of the racetrack. Right now, Scott's running in the 14th spot.
It's like drivers spreading out, trying to get a look in front of them, seeing what's happening. Bob, what's happening down on pit road?
Well, I'll tell you what, you guys have been preaching patience, and right now that's what TJ Majors, the spotter for Scott Lagasse Jr., is preaching to him. His driver went from 4th all the way back to 14th. In fact, just a moment ago on the radio, Scott Lagasse came on the radio and said, man, I have no love out here. And they said, be patient because you've got a good race car. So right now, he just plans to get in line and ride for just a little while and then get that 25 car back to the front when it counts.
A lot of experience with TJ Majors spotting for Scott Lagasse Jr. because TJ Majors spots for Dale Earnhardt Jr.
Yeah, absolutely. He knows how to do it, especially here at a restrictor plate racetrack like this. So they're in good shape. Again, we're just 8 laps into this thing. We've got 86 more laps. There's our leader right there, Ty Dillon.
Look at where the 2nd pack is, though. This is our lead pack. And look how far back you have to go before you get the 2nd pack. And look who's in that 2nd pack, the 44 of Frank Kimmel.
Yeah, one of the most experienced drivers we have here. He's following Chad McCumbee. I know those guys hooked up a lot in yesterday's final practice to see how their cars would work together. We have trouble
out of the 3. That's Brent Brevac. Brent started this race 25th, and it doesn't look like he's going to have the finish he was hoping for.
I think he may have a wheel bearing or something going. You can see that the left front tire is locked up. I would think that he probably had lost a wheel bearing and it's seized it up to the spindle.
They also had bad luck at Daytona. He was running 21st when the left wheel problems happened. So a tough ending for Brent Brevac, right?
Rick, I just wanted to send out a shout out to his former crew chief, Joe Sonkoski. Joe has been in the ARCA series for a long, long time. 1990, he was the mechanic of the year, and he's not at the racetrack to help out his team. He had a stroke right before the Daytona race, missed that event and this one. Joe is recovering back in Versailles, Ohio. So our well wishes to Joe, and it looks like they may be done for the day in the 3 camp.
Yeah, tough start to the 2011 season for the Brevacs, and the Brevac name, as far as ARCA racing goes, is synonymous. I mean, they're almost like the Venturinis. They've been around this series almost since its inception. They've been around a long time.
Yeah, Brett's father Bob, a former ARCA champion. Is that Joey Licata in the 77? Remember, we talked about having such a good run at Daytona.
Finished 6th at Daytona, and now Joey Licata also slow down on the apron. Looks like he's going to make his way onto pit road.
Without a doubt, unscheduled pit stop.
Licata was running in the 26th spot, and he continues to fall back. See the 11 moving up. That's Richard Harriman. Red car on the outside, moving out of the pack's way as they go by.
Remember, we haven't talked a whole lot about the yellow line there, Ty Dillon, sticking right to that yellow line. You cannot make a pass below that yellow line. Remember, that's out of bounds. You can go down below there. You just cannot improve your position. But that's why they want to stay right next to that yellow line and not allow anyone to get their nose underneath them.
Still up front, Ty Dillon, Tim George Jr., Kyle Fowler, Tom Hessert, Brandon McReynolds. They're your top 5. They haven't moved out of line. You see them moving just a bit out of line. They don't want to give up the position, but they also want to make sure they get air into that engine to make sure they don't get too hot.
That's one of the things that the guys were working on yesterday during our final practice. It's essentially an impound race, but they do have a final practice after qualifying. You're not allowed to change a whole lot of stuff, but you can work on your tape on your grill and to make sure you have that opening right for when you get a big pack like this. You can get enough air into the Kool-Aid engine. You see Chris Buescher now drops to the back of this pack. Chris is being shown in the 16th spot.
Ty Dillon crosses the stripe. That completes the 12th lap. We're on lap number 13 of 94, and it's been all Ty Dillon since the drop of the green flag. His teammate Tim George Jr. just behind him. Kyle Fowler in that Venturini Motorsports number 15 running in the 3rd spot. Hessert and Brandon McReynolds are your top 5. They continue to hold their position. Joey Coulter, Brian Silas, Bobby Gerhart, Matt Merrill, and Hal Martin all lining up behind them in your top 10. Then young Dakota Armstrong, who won this race a year ago, just outside the top 10 in 11.
Right behind him, Grant Enfinger, as we mentioned, was leading this race last year on the last lap. Got shuffled out, ended up finishing 6th. He finished 3rd the year before.
Now, Phil, we talked about how far back that second pack is running. Is that to stay out of the potential big one, or could that be a mistake?
Well, no, I think it's to stay out of the big one, but they don't want to obviously go a lap down.
Right.
So right now they're running about a second slower than this lead pack. You can see now as these guys have to make their way around some lap cars. Watch them all fight to try to get back to the bottom of the racetrack. How about Tom Hessert's going to pull out a line, though?
Tom Hessert looking to the outside. Looks like he has room to challenge on the outside, but doesn't make up any distance. A little bumping and banging, a little drafting going on behind him.
See,
now
Tom
they're
Hessert
spreading out around the racetrack.
Had no help up there. Dakota Armstrong in the 22 is going to come along and maybe help him. No, he's going to go to the outside.
Moves to the outside, and Hessert wants to take the spot. Those two run side by side, which definitely is not as quick as that line on the bottom.
Dakota Armstrong right now is way more important for him just to get behind Tom Hessert. Try not to lose any ground. He's going to try to get to the bottom of the racetrack as soon as that last car goes by.
Tom Hessert was running in the top 5 and now has dropped back, maybe holding on to a top 10 spot after making that move. Actually all the way back to 12. Smoke coming out of the 15 of Kyle Fowler. Looks like he has problems now. Fowler moves to the inside of the racetrack. The smoke continuing to come out.
Kyle was running in the 3rd spot. It looks like it might be an engine situation for Kyle. I'm sure the ARCA racing officials are looking at the racetrack to make sure he didn't put anything down.
And listening to the radios. These drivers will let them know if there's fluid or they thought fluid was coming out of that 15.
Tough break for Kyle Fowler, though. Such a great qualifying effort.
Bob, what are you hearing about that team?
Well, Kyle Fowler just reported on the radio. He said he didn't look at the gauges, but that engine is toast for that number 15 machine. Tough break for the teenager, second time this year on the front row, and he was looking to start and finish up front this time around.
Just an 18-year-old and a disappointing finish potentially for Kyle Fowler here at Talladega. Ty Dillon, the young man. Oh, we've got smoke coming out of Terry Jones's number 30. A huge plume of smoke. That's just as he crossed the start-finish line, and the caution comes out. So the first caution comes out. Strategy is really going to come into play right now because we've completed 15 laps. That means a guy like Bobby Gerhart may challenge this once again.
Yeah, that means almost 80 laps. So again, this is a 50-mile longer race than what we had at Daytona. We know Bobby stopped on lap number 5, but to go almost 80 laps here, I think that's going to be a stretch. But he may try it, and that way you're in position. If you get a lot of caution laps in the next 40 or 50 laps, then you know you're fairly secure. But I'll tell you, that's a long way to go.
Terry Jones bringing the 30 to a stop now on the apron. A lot of smoke all around this racetrack now as the engine expired for Terry Jones. 16 laps into this one, and it's Ty Dillon, Tim George Jr., and Brandon McReynolds, your top 3. Here come your lead pack onto pit road. Our first caution came out when Terry Jones's engine expired, and so Ty Dillon leads the field down pit road. Bob?
Joey Coulter in that number 16 car. He runs 4th right now, hoping for a great run here today. He's got the Rip It number 16 in his box right now. It'll be a fuel-only stop for Joey Coulter. Right?
Down on my end, Bob, it was a tough decision exactly what to do. Ty Dillon's crew chief Flash said we got to come in and get some gas so that we don't get stuck in a green pit cycle. The 31, his teammate, is also down pit road. We saw the 5 of Gerhart had a little bit of a problem here. He's going to lose 2 or 3 spots on pit road as they leave the exit.
It was Ty Dillon, then Brandon McReynolds that came across the start-finish line 1 and 2 to finish up that lap.
Several drivers stayed on the racetrack. The leader, I think, will be Grant Enfinger. Dakota Armstrong, Brian Silas also stay on the racetrack. Right there is Grant Enfinger in the 36 car, the Justin Allgaier Motorsports car.
Tomorrow Speed's ultimate pre-race show hits the high banks of Talladega. Brad Keselowski, Clint Boyer, and points leader Carl Edler will join us live. Plus, we'll take a look at the importance of driver-spotter relationships on super speedways. NASCAR race day built by the Home Depot from Talladega. That's Sunday, 10 Eastern, live on Speed.
Carl who?
Edwards. I hope he's watching, by the way.
Well, you know he's watching.
He's going to get a good laugh out of that.
There's our Aaron's lucky dog, Benny Chastain, in the drive to end hunger Ford for Bob Shack Motorsports.
Benny carrying one of our onboard cameras. You know, the wheel doesn't move a whole lot here at Talladega, but the mind is sure turning. Bob Dillner.
Just checked with Dakota Armstrong's crew chief Paul Andrews, and I said, why not come in right now? We saw Bobby Gerhart gamble at Daytona, and it paid off for him. And he said, you can't make it. He says, there's no way we can get the fuel mileage out of our number 22 machine and make it to the finish. So it was just clear, cut, and dry for the 22 of Dakota Armstrong. They couldn't make it if they came down pit road right now. It makes you wonder if others can.
Bob, I really doubt if they can make it from here, but you know, as Flash Scott Nassett, crew chief for Ty Dillon, said, I hate to get another long green flag run and get caught out and have to make a pit stop under green. So that's why the majority of the field came in just for a little bit of fuel to top these things off. So now they can go at least 55 or 60 laps from here, even if we go green.
Out in front of the field right now, Grant Enfinger, Dakota Armstrong, Brian Silas, Pierre Bourque. Those are your top 4. James Hilton scored in the 5th spot. Ty Dillon scored 7th. He was the first off of pit road.